Airbus spent 25 billion euros building the most ambitious passenger aircraft ever made. It holds 555 people. It has 2 full decks. It has bars, showers, and private suites at 38,000 feet. Airlines lined up to buy it. Passengers loved it. Then, quietly, Airbus announced it would never build an upgraded version. No new engines, no second generation. Just stopped. The aircraft that was supposed to reshape global aviation will simply fade out of production. So why would Airbus walk away from the largest commercial jet program in history? The story begins in the 1990s. Air travel was growing faster than airports could handle. Major hubs like London Heathrow, Frankfurt, and Singapore Changi were running out of runway slots. Aviation planners believed the solution was obvious: build bigger planes, fill them with more passengers, move more people per flight without adding airport infrastructure. In 2000, Airbus launched the A380 program officially. The aircraft would be a double-deck wide-body capable of carrying over 500 passengers. It would allow airlines to move massive volumes of people between the world's most congested hub airports. By 2005, the first A380 rolled out of the factory in Toulouse, France. In 2007, Singapore Airlines became the first carrier to fly it commercially. The aircraft was a genuine engineering achievement. Cabin noise levels were measurably lower than on any comparable long-haul aircraft. The upper deck could be configured as luxury suites or private lounges for first-class travelers. Emirates, the Dubai-based carrier, became its largest customer. Emirates eventually ordered over 160 aircraft. The 2008 financial crisis forced several carriers to defer or cancel their A380 orders outright. Airbus kept production running, but the warning signs were accumulating. By 2013, only around 250 orders had been placed across all airlines combined. Airbus needed to sell at least 420 aircraft to break even on the program. That shortfall represented billions in unrecovered development costs. The math was already failing. Here is where the mechanics of the failure become clear. The A380 was designed around a specific theory of how aviation would evolve. That theory is called hub and spoke. Under hub and spoke, passengers fly from smaller cities into massive gateway airports. They then transfer onto large jets for long-haul intercontinental routes. The A380 was the perfect hub-to-hub machine. Its wingspan stretches 80 meters, and only a handful of airports worldwide could handle it. That constraint limited the pool of potential buyers from the very start. But while Airbus was engineering the A380, Boeing was building something philosophically opposite. Boeing bet on point-to-point flying. Aviation was splitting into 2 competing visions of the future. Airbus believed the hub would dominate. Boeing believed the hub would become irrelevant. Instead of routing passengers through congested megahubs, smaller and more efficient jets could fly directly between mid-sized cities. That aircraft became the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The 787 entered commercial service in 2011. It burns roughly 20% less fuel than comparable older aircraft. Because of this, airlines could profitably open routes that previously made no financial sense. A 787 flying non-stop from London to Austin, Texas, was suddenly viable without routing through New York, which means hub airports faced less congestion pressure, which means the core commercial case for the A380 began to collapse. Airlines noticed the shift quickly. By 2014, carriers like Air France, Qantas, and Singapore Airlines were openly expressing concern about A380 operating costs. Each aircraft runs on 4 engines. 4 engines mean higher maintenance bills, higher fuel consumption on thinner routes, and more complex overhaul schedules. A twin-engine 787 or Airbus A350 could cover comparable distances at dramatically lower cost per seat. The economics were moving decisively against the Superjumbo. And Airbus's own A350 was now outselling the A380 within the same product catalog. The turning point arrived in February 2019. Emirates, the airline that had carried the A380 program almost single-handedly, delivered a bombshell.
Emirates President Tim Clark announced the airline was cutting its firm A380 order. The number dropped from 162 down to 123. The announcement shocked the industry. Airbus gave itself days to find alternative buyers. None appeared. On February 14, 2019, Airbus announced it would cease A380 production entirely by 2021. But here's what most coverage missed. The real story wasn't just about Emirates cutting its order. The real story was about an upgrade that was never built. For years, Airbus had held quiet discussions about launching the A380neo, a re-engined variant of the Superjumbo fitted with next-generation turbofan engines. Those new engines would have cut fuel burn by an additional 10 to 15%. That would have made the aircraft far more competitive against the 787 and the A350. The problem was the investment required. Developing new engines for the A380 would have cost Airbus between $1.5 and $2 billion. Fewer than 300 aircraft had ever been ordered in total. At that volume, the return on investment was impossible to justify. Airlines would not commit to buying enough upgraded aircraft to recover the development costs. The math was already failing. While most analysts assumed Airbus simply ran out of customers, the reality was more precise. Airbus ran a specific financial calculation. They needed firm commitments for at least 50 A380neos before they could authorize development. Emirates was the only airline large enough to anchor that order, and Emirates chose to pivot towards the more fuel-efficient Boeing 777X instead. The A380neo didn't die from lack of ambition. It died because the numbers refused to cooperate. The last A380 rolled off the Toulouse production line in 2021. Airlines still fly their existing fleets. Emirates operates well over 100 A380s today and has committed to keeping them flying through the 2030s. Passengers consistently rate it among the most comfortable commercial aircraft ever built, but no new ones will ever be produced. The deeper question now is what this moment reveals about aviation's direction. Airbus has no plans to revisit the Superjumbo concept in any form. Boeing has quietly shelved its own competing designs for very large aircraft. The industry has moved decisively towards smaller, twin-engine jets serving thinner routes more efficiently. But aviation history rarely moves in straight lines. Airports like London Heathrow and Tokyo Haneda remain severely slot-constrained today. Passenger demand is projected to grow by 60% by 2040. When that growth arrives in full force, hub airport congestion will return. The industry will face the same fundamental tension Airbus tried to resolve in 2000. Build bigger aircraft or build more airports? Neither answer is cheap, neither answer is simple, and neither answer has changed in the decades since the A380 first took flight. The ghost of the Superjumbo will be in the room when that conversation happens again. The A380neo never flew, but the problem it was designed to solve has not gone away. When hub airports hit their limits again, what will the industry turn to next? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you want more aviation stories told this way, subscribe. A new deep dive drops every week.